about to do my NFL preview for week 3. And welcome to Wise Guys. These guys know sports on this Sunday, September the 26th, NFL Week 3 preview by yours truly, Trey Larkins. Everybody remember going follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. We are live here on the Worldwide Sports Network. How was everyone weekend been? I know we had some great college football yesterday. We had Notre Dame and Wisconsin, playing each other in a great matchup. Notre Dame ended up taking off on Wisconsin in the fourth quarter of that game. I saw Tennessee and Florida battle it out early in that matchup down in Gainesville, but Florida ended up beating Tennessee. I'm impressed with the Florida Gators. I'm going to get to some NFL here in a bit, but when it comes to the college football, I'm impressed with the Florida Gators. Last week, they competed in a very, very competitive game against Nick Saban and Alabama's Crimson Tide. And if it wasn't for a few miscues on special teams, they would have had a chance to win that game, and they beat Tennessee last night. So I'm very impressed right now with what I'm seeing from the Florida Gators. But it is NFL Sunday, Week 3. I'm going to preview a few of the big-time matchups that we got going on today. We got some big-time matchups in the NFC. We got a powerhouse matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams out there at SoFi Stadium in LA. Also later tonight on Sunday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers travel to the West Coast, to the Bay, to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who are 2-0 in the season. So I'll break down that matchup a little later on as well. And I'm also give y'all my Week 3 NFL Wise picks. I'm going to give y'all my scores for every game of NFL Week 3. I'm excited. We know it's early in the season, but there are some big-time, prime-time matchups that I'm looking forward to today. In the AFC, we also got Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers traveling to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Last week, the Chiefs lost, to Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar had a late comeback in that game, so we know the Chiefs want to rebound today in a big-time matchup in the AFC West. But we began in New York with Eli Manning as, the New York Giants. They're going to retire Eli Manning's jersey today, in the game when they face off against the Atlanta Falcons. And so, Eli Manning, for 16 seasons was the quarterback of the New York Giants. And we know that Eli Manning comes from a football family. Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Archie Manning, their dad, also, was definitely heavily involved in football. And, he come from a football family overall. And when I look at Eli Manning, right, the Giants, again, they're going to retire his number 10 jersey today, and he's going to go into the Giants Hall of Fame. And so the question here is, does Eli Manning deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame? When you look at Eli Manning's career, he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, 4-time Pro Bowl quarterback for his career, 366 total touchdowns, 244 interceptions, threw for over 57,000 passing yards, completing 60% of his passes. He is a great playoff performer. In his playoff career, Eli Manning has a career record of 8-4. He has 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He has the most passing yards in a single postseason with 1,219 total passing yards. That happened in 2011. He also beat my Packers twice at Lambeau Field, once in 2007 against Brett Favre, and also in 2011 against Aaron Rodgers. Eli Manning is one of the most clutch players in NFL history. And you know, there are certain players that always rise to the occasion. And for whatever reason, they always step up in playoff moments. We saw many years in the NBA where Robert Horry wasn't a great player, you know, overall, but he was a great playoff performer and hit big time shots, you know, throughout the course of his career. Damian Lillard, I believe he's the most clutch player in the NBA right now. Now, he doesn't have any championships, but I think when it comes down to best clutch players in the NBA, Damian Lillard deserves to be at the top of that list. Also in the NFL, playoff performers who I believe who play well in the postseason. In his prime, Ben Roethlisberger, he was a great playoff performer. I always felt like when the lights was at its brightest, Ben Roethlisberger always played at a very, very high level. Now, he was never the best quarterback in the NFL. He was never on the same level as an Aaron Rodgers, on the same level as a Tom Brady, or even a Drew Brees for that matter, in my opinion. But he always performed very well in the playoffs. That's Eli Manning. Eli Manning is a great playoff performer. He's one of the most clutch players in NFL history. And I remember in the 2011, Super Bowl, I believe, when they were going up against the New England Patriots, the pass that he threw up the sideline to Mario Manningham was outstanding. It was outstanding. It was a great throw, and Eli put it right on the money. And you can make a legitimate argument that throughout the course of his career, Eli Manning was more clutch than even his brother, Peyton Manning. And as great as Peyton Manning was, Peyton Manning had some rough playoff performances. And he had some early playoff exits when he was in Indianapolis. And so that was one of the questions that we had about Peyton Manning. Can he make those clutch throws, late in playoff games? Because his little brother, Eli Manning, he did that at a very, very high level. But there are people who get promotions and certain opportunities in life that others don't get simply because of their last name. And that's exactly what's happening right now with Eli Manning and why he will be a Hall of Fame quarterback when it's all said and done. But if you're asking the question whether or not he deserves it, I say he does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And let me give you multiple reasons why I don't believe Eli Manning deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning's career regular season record is 117 and 117. So he's only won 500, 50% of his games in the regular season. Not very impressive. Not very impressive. Also, Eli Manning has never led the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns. It's never happened. But he's led the NFL in interceptions 3 times during his career. There were many years where I used to watch Eli Manning and he would throw so many interceptions. And I would think to myself, like, gee, the Giants had an opportunity to win this game, but Eli Manning can't protect the football. And that's the reason why we saw them miss the playoffs many years. Okay? In 16 total seasons in the NFL as being the starting quarterback of the New York Giants, Eli Manning has missed the playoffs 10 out of 16 years. So that means he's only made the playoffs 6 out of 16 years. That is not Hall of Fame worthy, in my opinion. It's just not. And so when you also compare him to his counterparts in the NFL, even though he never won a Super Bowl, never got to a Super Bowl, I always felt like Phillip Rivers was better than Eli Manning. Eli Manning just had a better situation than Phillip Rivers. Eli Manning had a great defense that carried him twice on his postseason runs. He won the Super Bowl twice in his career, and he had great defensive lines twice in his career. Jason Pierre-Paul, Michael Strahan, he had some great players on the defensive line that applied pressure to opposing quarterbacks, and that's why Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls in his career. He beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl. One for Eli Manning, Tom Brady would have 9 Super Bowls in his career. So we thank Eli for that, because I can only imagine what Brady fans would say if he had 9 Super Bowls on his resume. But 117 career record in the regular season, never leading the league in passing yards or passing touchdowns, and also leading the league in interceptions 3 times, and also missing the playoffs 10 out of 16 years in this regular season, in his career. And then also, when you compare Eli Manning to his counterparts, Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, there are so many quarterbacks that I would take over Eli Manning. Eli Manning was average. And in my opinion, average doesn't warrant you to be in the Hall of Fame. Your last name shouldn't warrant you to be in the Hall of Fame. But we all know Eli Manning will get into the Hall of Fame just based off his last name alone. Based off his last name alone, he'll get in. But does he deserve it? Absolutely not. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. You are live here on the Worldwide Sports Network with Trey Larkins, talking the latest in sports news. So let's transition. Let's talk about the big time matchup that we have today in LA between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the LA Rams. Kickoff is at 4:25 Eastern time on Fox. And so both teams enter this game at 2-0 on the season. And, last year, the LA Rams, they beat the Bucs 27-24, and they held them to only 209 passing yards, amongst the lowest of the season last year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when I break down this game, right, let's start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've won 10 straight games dating back to last season, and they scored over 30 points in 9 straight games. 9 straight games, they've scored over 30 points, and they've won 10 straight games. So offensively, we know they're led by Tom Brady, who's having a great season, to start off this season. I think he has 9 touchdowns on the season, just 2 interceptions. He's completing 65% of his passes. So Tom Brady's picking up just where he left off last year, after leading the Bucs to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. Offensively, we know they have a ton of weapons. You got Ronald Jones in the backfield, still got Leonard Fournette as well. At receiver, you got Mike Evans, got Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown. He's going to be out today because he has COVID. But we know when Antonio Brown plays, he plays at a very high level and produces for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In their Week 1 win over the Dallas Cowboys, AB was absolutely sensational. He was absolutely sensational, and he showed why at one point he was universally recognized as the best receiver in the NFL. I know right now, I believe that Devontae Adams is the best receiver in the NFL for my Green Bay Packers. Stephon Diggs deserves to be in that conversation. DeAndre Hopkins deserves to be in that conversation. Julio Jones deserves to be in that conversation. But at one point, the best receiver in the NFL, although he had off-the-field issues, was Antonio Brown. I don't give a damn what anyone in the media says. I'm in the media, and I can admit that he had off-the-field issues, but Antonio Brown was one of the best receivers in the NFL at one point arguably the best receiver in the NFL. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers got weapons all over the place. But when I look at their defense, their pass defense has been suspect so far this season. You know, they got lit up by Dak Prescott in the opener in week 1. You know, Dak Prescott, you know, had an outstanding game. I believe the Cowboys scored, 29 points in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong about that, but they scored like 29 points. They had a bunch of yards through the air. Now, I know right now the Bucs, they don't have Sean Murphy-Bunting. He went out in the first quarter, you know, in the week 1 matchup against the Cowboys. So he's one of their defensive backs that they have on the defensive side of the ball. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what made them so great, you know, during their playoff run was the fact that they was able to apply pressure on opposing teams' quarterbacks. And right now, because they don't have Jason Pierre-Paul, who's not going to play in this game, he's going to be a key loss for them. You know, but up front, you still got Ndamukong Suh. You know, you still got Vita Vea. You know, he's a great, you know, player at being able to stop the run. I mean, this brother, Vita Vea, is, what is he, over 300 pounds? I mean, he's 347. That's Vita Vea. So we know you can't really run the football on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're going to have to do it through the air. That's how the LA Rams will have a chance to win this game. You're going to need Matthew Stafford to throw the ball, you know, to his weapons, like Cooper Kupp, like Robert Woods, to be able to win this game. You're not going to be able to run the football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up front. They're too stout. Devin White, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. They are great at being able to stuff the run. They're great at being able to do it. So, you know, if they can also generate a pass rush, though, then I believe they can really make things difficult for the Rams offense. They can make things difficult for their offense. I think the Bucs offense will be just fine. They're led by Tom Brady, you know, the greatest quarterback in NFL history from an accomplishment standpoint. So they'll be just fine offensively. And we know they're going to put up points. They're going to definitely put up points. And I think this is a game where they're going to get their running game going with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Because so far this season, again, Tom Brady has been leading the charge. 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, threw for 655 total yards, which is ranked 6th so far in the NFL. And, you know, he's going to have them putting up points offensively. The question is, can they stop the LA Rams? And so far this season, the LA Rams, they've been one of the best offensive teams in the NFL. Offensively, they are ranked top 5 in points scored. Also, they're second in the NFL in terms of penalties. So they don't really, you know, have a lot of penalties. They're, you know, second in terms of that. They're second in the NFL as far as sacks allowed. So they're protecting Matthew Stafford right now. And that's the reason why Matthew Stafford has 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, completing 70% of his passes, 599 total passing yards on the season. They're protecting Matthew Stafford right now. So I give them a lot of credit for that. But when you look at the LA Rams overall, they are second in red zone points as well. So they scoring when they get in the red zone. They scoring when they get in the red zone. The problem is, ironically, and this is something that's very, very surprisingly that's going on. It's defensively where the Rams have struggled. And we know they have 2 of the best defensive players in the NFL in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. But defensively, the Rams are ranked 20th in rushing defense. They're ranked 26th in total defense as far as getting off the field on third down. So they don't get off the field on third down. So teams are able to have scoring drives on the LA Rams defense right now. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Rams defense can get off the field against Tom Brady, because if they can't, I believe the LA Rams will struggle in this game, and they may end up losing this game, despite the Bucs secondary being suspect without having Sean Murphy-Bunting. So I'm really excited about this game. Like this is a primetime NFC matchup, a potential NFC championship game preview. We got two, great coaches facing off against each other, and Bruce Arians and Sean McVay. Sean McVay, the last few years, his offense has really, really went down year by year. Now you can say, oh, it's because of Jared Goff. Okay. But at some point, we need to see Sean McVay be able to get the Rams back to the postseason and get back to a Super Bowl. They got to the Super Bowl in 2018. They lost to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, but they only scored 3 points in the Super Bowl. Ever since then, their offense, they have went down in total rankings year by year. They went from being ranked first to being ranked second to being ranked 11th to being ranked 22nd in the NFL last year. So as great as this offensive guru as Sean McVay has been, his offense for the last few years, statistically, they have went down in the offensive rankings in the NFL. So you got Matthew Stafford now as your quarterback. So at this point, you should be able to elevate offensively and be able to be one of the top 10 offenses in the NFL, Sean McVay. There ain't no excuses now. Jared Goff is in Detroit. So that excuse is right now in Detroit. You have Matthew Stafford now, one of the best throwers of the football we have seen. Okay? But when it comes to Matthew Stafford, is there pressure on Matthew Stafford in this early season matchup against an NFC powerhouse like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I would say yes, because of the perception of Matthew Stafford. Now, we know even if the Rams win today, they're not going to win, the NFC because they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in week 3 of the regular season. But for Matthew Stafford, him being able to perform well in a very important game is extremely important for the LA Rams as a team. You can make a legitimate argument that giving the expectations and given the fact that the Rams are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, this is the most important game so far in Matthew Stafford's career. Now, I know he's been in the playoffs 3 times. And so far in the playoffs, Matthew Stafford, he's 0-3 in the playoffs, 0-3. He has 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 908 passing yards, completing 63% of his passes. Not very impressive. He's lost to Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. He's lost to Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. And then a few years ago, he also lost to the Dallas Cowboys. So he hasn't won a playoff game so far in his career. Now, I know everyone is going to say, well, he hasn't won a playoff game because of the Detroit Lions. Matthew Stafford, you couldn't at least win one playoff game? Not one? And in games that matter in his career, Matthew Stafford, he's 10-59 in his career against teams that went on to make the playoffs. 10-59. That's not very impressive. And then when you look at the situation he was in Detroit, you play in the NFC North, Matthew Stafford. The teams in the NFC North, the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears, they both have been very inconsistent. Very consistent. The only consistent competition that you've had in the NFC North, Matthew, has been Aaron Rodgers. And you couldn't lead the Detroit Lions on a deep playoff run at any point in your career? Because we know Aaron Rodgers has owned the NFC North. And Matthew Stafford, his only legit competition has been Aaron Rodgers. Because again, the Vikings and the Bears both have been inconsistent. So, I got my questions about Matthew Stafford and whether or not he can step up in pressure moments and deliver for the LA Rams. Sean McVay and the LA Rams, they didn't trade for Matthew Stafford to beat the Bears in week 1. They didn't trade for Matthew Stafford to beat an injury-plagued Indianapolis Colts team in week 2. They traded for Matthew Stafford to beat teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a primetime matchup on Fox at 4:25 Eastern time. That's why they traded for Matthew Stafford. So he is expected to perform well in these type of games. I want to see what he's got. And again, they aren't going to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl with a week 3 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it will prove to me that Matthew Stafford is ready to shine when the lights are at its brightest. If he can get a nice week 3 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's just one game, but I want to see him play well when he's expected to play well and they're expected to compete in a primetime matchup against an NFC powerhouse team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want to see what you got, Matthew, because this 10-59 record against teams that went on to make the playoffs is not very impressive. It's not very impressive. So this game is going to be interesting. Let me give y'all my predictions for this game. I think this game will be close. I got the it's going to be tough. It's going to be a good game. I'm going to roll with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win this game, but it's going to be a close game. I got Bucs 27, Rams 24. The exact same score from last year when they faced off against each other, except last year it was the other way around. Rams beat the Bucs 27-24. This time, I think the Bucs will beat the Rams 27-24 on a late game field goal. But it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm looking at that secondary for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can they slow down this Rams passing attack? So far on the season, Cooper Kupp's having a great season. 271 receiving yards, 16 receptions, 3 touchdowns. I like the way Cooper Kupp is playing so far this season. He's leading the charge offensively in the passing game for the LA Rams. And then, early in the season, they lost Cam Akers. Cam Akers, he was an up-and-coming running back in the NFL, but they got Sonny Michel. Darrell Henderson, he's questionable for this game, so we'll see if he can go. But if the Rams can run the football, which probably won't happen because the Bucs are so stout up front, they can really take some pressure off Matthew Stafford in this game. But I think this game is going to be on Matthew Stafford's arm. That's what it's going to come down to for me. It's going to come down to Matthew Stafford, and I think Tom Brady is going to make 1 or 2 more plays than Matthew Stafford. It's going to be a great matchup, though. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And also, These Guys Know Sports. Follow the Worldwide Sports Network as well on all platforms. Let's transition. Let's talk about the NFC matchup. Also, that's a big-time matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. 8:25 Eastern Time on NBC tonight. Y'all know I'm excited about this matchup. Aaron Rodgers is 5-6 in his career versus the 49ers. That's including the playoffs. So when I look at this matchup and this game, I got to be honest. I hate the San Francisco 49ers. I do. I got a lot of 49er fans that I am friends with. Robert Anthony on Facebook might drop. That's my guy. Christian Bradley's also my guy. He's a diehard 49er fan. Fantastic Green. That's my man on Facebook as well. Brian Snow, go and follow Snowman in the Morning on all social media platforms as well. Brian Snow's a diehard 49er fan. I got so many 49er fans that always mess with me because the 49ers, they have been Aaron Rodgers' kryptonite. And they are a part of the reason why Aaron Rodgers hasn't gotten back to the Super Bowl. In 2012, going up against Colin Kaepernick, in a playoff matchup in the Bay, the 49ers, they beat my Packers. It was like 45-28, I believe the score was. It might have been 45-31. But they beat the Packers in 2012. Packers defense, they had no answers for Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick had over 181 rushing yards, Clay Matthews, Charles Woodson, they couldn't keep up with Colin Kaepernick. He had a field day on the Packers defense. They beat the Packers in that playoff game. And then the following year, Aaron Rodgers, I think he tore his collarbone and he returned back in week 17. The Packers beat the Bears, at Soldier Field in a primetime winner-take-all matchup to win the NFC North. Packers beat the Bears, won the NFC North, early exit from the playoffs, again by the San Francisco 49ers and Colin Kaepernick. I mean, time and time again, when my Packers have gotten to the postseason, we have come up short against the 49ers. And I remember 2 years ago in the regular season, big time matchup again, very, very big expectations for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. They travel to the Bay and they get blown off the field 37-8. That same year, Aaron Rodgers leads the Packers to the NFC Championship game, and we got blown off the field again 37-20. Now, last year, the Packers beat the 49ers in the regular season, but the 49ers, they had a bunch of injuries last year. Nick Bosa was injured. Armstead was injured. Garoppolo, had an injury-riddled season. The 49ers, they were decimated last year with injuries. I mean, the entire team was depleted. They were depleted. So I'm not going to put any stock in the fact that my Packers beat the 49ers last year because the Niners were so injury-riddled. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. But when it matters the most, the 49ers, they have been Aaron Rodgers' kryptonite. They've been his kryptonite. And he hasn't been able to get over the hump of beating the 49ers. They have broken my heart many times in the playoffs. I had expectations for my Packers to get back to the Super Bowl many times, and it did not happen. So I don't, mind being honest and letting everyone know I hate the 49ers. I am not a fan of the 49ers whatsoever. But I have to be respectful because they have dominated the matchup between, the Green Bay Packers and the 49ers. And then there was reports this morning that came out. Adam Schefter reported that Aaron Rodgers preferred to be traded to the San Francisco 49ers. Or in the offseason, the reports about Aaron Rodgers not wanting to return back to Green Bay. He wanted out of Green Bay. And reportedly, the team that he wanted to go to the most was the 49ers. That's very interesting. Yeah, I know he's a California kid, born and raised in the state of California. He was supposed to be picked by the 49ers, but the 49ers decided to go with Alex Smith. Aaron Rodgers dropped the 25th in that draft, and he came to my Green Bay Packers. Now, when you ask a question about which team needs to win more, I would say it's the Green Bay Packers by far, because with all of the off-the-field issues going on between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers organization and how Aaron Rodgers hasn't been happy with the organizations for many years now, and then you combine that with the fact that the Packers got blown off the field in week 1, 38-3 to the New Orleans Saints, and then in week 2, the Detroit Lions at halftime, they led the game 17-14. Now, in the second half, the Packers outscored the Detroit Lions 21-0. Detroit didn't score a single point in the second half. But in the first half, it was a very competitive game. I would say the Packers need a win more than the 49ers, given the circumstances, because of how the offseason was very toxic between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers organization. Some people are questioning whether or not Aaron Rodgers is fully committed to the Packers, although I think that's ridiculous because Aaron Rodgers, if he shows up to practice and he shows up to the game on Sunday, Aaron Rodgers is fully committed. Otherwise, he would not have came back. He could have easily sat out and not played this season. So he's fully committed to the Green Bay Packers. But given the fact that they have all these off-the-field issues right now between Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers and how that toxic that relationship has been, I believe the Packers need this win more. But on the flip side, even if the Packers lose tonight to the 49ers, we are still going to win the NFC North. No one is picking Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears to win the NFC North. No one is picking Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings to beat the Green Bay Packers in the NFC North. We all know the NFC North is the Green Bay Packers division to lose. But on the other hand, for the 49ers, the NFC West is the best division in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals, they're off to a 2-0 start with Kyler Murray. The Seattle Seahawks, they have Russell Wilson, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Also, Pete Carroll, one of the best coaches in the NFL. They're 1-1 on the season. They are true contenders, in the NFC. The LA Rams, I just talked about them in the last segment. They have Super Bowl expectations as well. So the NFC West is the toughest division in the NFL. So you can make a legitimate argument that the 49ers, they need every win possible because they're going to be, competing for the NFC West crown, and it's going to be hard to win the NFC West. Make no mistake about it. The West could easily have 3 teams that make the playoffs. Easily. So, you can make an argument for both teams needing this win more. I'm kind of, split down the middle with that. The Packers need to have an impressive win because so far this season, we only had one half of great football. And I need the Packers to have a more complete performance against a more complete team. We know the New Orleans Saints, that week 1 performance was an aberration. The Packers won't get blown out again the way they did in week 1 at any point in this season. It won't happen again. But also in week 2, I wasn't really impressed with the Packers, especially not their defense. In the first half against the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff looked like an elite quarterback. He looked like an elite quarterback for one half of football. And then overall for the game, the Packers only had 1 sack. They've only had 1 sack the entire season. That's an issue. New defensive coordinator Joe Barry for the Green Bay Packers. I haven't been very impressed with him as a coordinator so far. I haven't been impressed. They fired Mike Pettin last year, and they brought in Joe Barry. Joe Barry, I think he's familiar with Matt LaFleur. So Matt LaFleur wanted to bring in someone he's familiar with on the defensive side of the ball. So far this season in 2 games, you can make a legitimate argument that the Packers were better with Mike Pettin than they are right now with Joe Barry. 1 sack in 2 games is unacceptable for that defense. Unacceptable. Now, for this game, we have some key players missing. David Bakhtiari, arguably the best lineman in the NFL. He's out in this game. Also, left tackle and guard/center. He plays multiple positions on the offensive line. Elton Jenkins, he's out in this game. So I'm a little bit worried about the Packers and if they can protect Aaron Rodgers in this game. We know up front, the San Francisco 49ers, they're one of the best teams up front defensively. I mean, you got Nick Bosa, you got DJ Jones, you still got Arik Armstead. He's questionable in this game, but if he can go, I'm not sure if my Packers can protect Aaron Rodgers in this game. I got to be honest. Without Elton Jenkins, without David Bakhtiari, it's going to be a struggle to protect Aaron Rodgers in this game. I'll tell you what will be important. It's going to be important for Aaron Jones to get involved offensively for the Packers. It's going to be important because Aaron Jones had a great week 1 game against the Detroit Lions. Now, you're going up against the Detroit Lions. I'm not going to put too much stock into that. But Aaron Jones was impressive in that game. Very impressive. What was his stats? He had, what did he have? 76 total rushing yards, but he had 3 touchdowns on the game. 3 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 61 receiving yards. So I was very impressed with Aaron Jones. He's going to be key because if we can run the football, that can take some pressure off Aaron Rodgers. and we won't have to rely on Aaron Rodgers having to drop back to pass, 35, 40 times in this game. He can drop back to pass maybe 20, 25 games. It's important for us to be able to establish the run. You have to establish the run. Like against any great pass rush, you have to be able to establish the run. The run game throws off that great pass rush. So when you can, move the chains by running the football, that can offset a great pass rush. Also have some, plays called for the screen game, Aaron Jones, in the passing game. If you're going to throw the pass, if you're going to throw off the pass rush, have some plays called for the screen game for Aaron Jones. Also, the screen game for the tight end, Robert Tonyan. That's how you throw off a great pass rush. We got to slow down that pass rush, because if that pass rush gets it going in this atmosphere at Levi Stadium, it could be a recipe for disaster for my Packers in the Bay once again. So we know the 49ers, they got weapons at every level defensively. Every level. Nick Bosa, Arik Armstead, up front. And then at the linebacker position, you got Fred Warner. He's one of the best young linebackers we have in the NFL. Alongside Devin White. Like Devin White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he's one of the best linebackers as well. Fred Warner deserves to be in that conversation. He's big time. He's big time. And he reminds me of a young Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner, the linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. Fred Warner deserves to be in that conversation as one of the best linebackers in the NFL. Also, in the secondary, you still got Jimmy Ward. You still got, Tart, in the secondary. You still got Emmanuel Mosley. Emmanuel Mosley as well. So, they got some players at every level. 49ers defense is elite. They are elite. So it's important for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers to be able to establish the running game and be able to slow down the pass rush. If that can happen, we'll have a shot. We'll have a puncher's chance at beating the 49ers tonight at Levi Stadium. Now, when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo, and so far on the season, Jimmy Garoppolo has only got 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 503 total passing yards on the season, QBR 61.8. Y'all know before the season, Kyle Shanahan was talking about the possibility of Trey Lance, getting some snaps situationally for the 49ers. And so we know right now in the NFL, a lot of young quarterbacks, they are starting. Like right now we got, in New York, we got Zach Wilson starting for the Jets. We got Mac Jones starting right now for the New England Patriots. Justin Fields just took over the starting job in Chicago. Down in Jacksonville, we got Trevor Lawrence starting for the Jaguars. So everywhere you look, you see starting, quarterbacks being inserted into the starting lineup as rookies. The only rookie that's not starting right now that was in the first round is Trey Lance. Now, Trey Lance, I believe he's a playmaker. And if the 49ers want to get to the Super Bowl and possibly win a Super Bowl, believe it or not, I believe Trey Lance gives them a better chance than Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I know everyone's going to say, what? Jimmy Garoppolo, he has a winning record as a starting quarterback for the 49ers. But we all know when the moment rises, Jimmy Garoppolo is not elite. We saw it 2 years ago in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Niners, at one point in that game, they were up, 20-10 in that game? And if Jimmy Garoppolo could have hit Emmanuel Sanders on the deep pass late in the fourth quarter, Jimmy Garoppolo entire, way that we view him would be different. But he can't make those key throws in key moments in key games. He's not that caliber of quarterback. Like the reason why the 49ers, they have been Super Bowl contenders the last 3 years has been multiple other reasons on their team, not named Jimmy G. When I look at the 49ers, I look at their defense first. Then I look at Kyle Shanahan as a play caller. Then I think about George Kittle and how he's arguably the best tight end in the NFL. I know Travis Kelce is a great tight end. You can make an argument for Travis Kelce being the best tight end in the NFL, especially considering George Kittle was injured last year. But George Kittle is great in the running game as far as being a blocker. Like, he's great at blocking. He loves blocking as a tight end. Most tight ends, they want to catch touchdown passes. They want to be able to catch passes in the open field, make guys miss. They don't really want to block very much. That was one of the issues that I had with Jimmy Graham throughout the course of his career. He didn't really want to get dirty. He wanted to catch touchdown passes and, not get in the dirt and block. That's what George Kittle is great at. So when I look at the 49ers, there are multiple levels that I look at before I look at Jimmy G. Their defense, Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle, their great running game that they have with Mostert, although he's out for the season. But they've had a great running game the last few years. There are multiple levels that I discussed as a part of the reason why the 49ers are successful before I even get to Jimmy Garoppolo. So, can Jimmy Garoppolo get you to the playoffs? Yes. Can Jimmy Garoppolo even possibly win you a playoff game? Yes. Remember, in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago, the 49ers beat the Packers, and Garoppolo only threw 8 passes. 8 passes. So if you force the 49ers to have to throw the football to win a meaningful game, can Jimmy Garoppolo deliver? And I believe the answer to that is no. That's why I believe when it's all said and done, Trey Lance will give the 49ers the best chance to possibly compete for a Super Bowl. At some point this year, I think he will be inserted into the starting lineup as the quarterback for the 49ers. It's inevitable. And the 49ers, they want to have Garoppolo put together a few games where he performs very well, and they possibly can trade him. They just want him to increase his trade value at this point. We know this is Trey Lance's team. It's Trey Lance's team. And the sooner the 49ers can develop Trey Lance at being a consistent starting quarterback, the sooner they can possibly, elevate themselves to being one of the true contenders in the NFC. They're contenders even without Trey Lance being, the starting quarterback. They're contenders with Jimmy Garoppolo. But if they want to truly be contenders and possibly win the Super Bowl, Trey Lance has to be their starting quarterback. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H, also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Let's transition. Let's talk about these week 3 matchups. And let me give y'all my week 3 Wise picks for the week. We got Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens, traveling to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. I got the Ravens beating the Lions. I'm going to go 30, Lions 17. Lions will compete, but I'll give the Lions 17. I got Ravens 30, Lions 17. Falcons at Giants. I think the Giants get their first win of the season. I got Giants beating the Falcons 24-20. It's going to be a close one, but I got the Giants winning. Eli Manning Day at MetLife Stadium. Saints at Patriots. We know the Saints coming off a loss last week to the Carolina Panthers. Like, which Saints team is going to show up? That's my question for this game. Because we see in week 1, the Saints, they beat the Green Bay Packers 38-3. Jameis Winston had an outstanding game, 5 touchdown passes. He was absolutely sensational, showed why he, has such a great arm and can, throw the ball at a very, very high level. But then in week 2, he regressed and he didn't play very well. And the Saints as a team didn't play very well. Which Saints team will show up? I think the Saints of week 2 will show up. I think the Patriots will win this game and improve to 2-1 on the season. I got the Patriots beating the Saints. I'm going to go 23-17. 23-17. Okay. Bengals at Steelers. I think this game is going to be more competitive than most people think. TJ Watt has been ruled out with a groin injury. Also, Ben Roethlisberger, he's been battling a pectoral injury, throughout the entire week. It's going to be a close game. Man, I was disappointed in Joe Burrow last week against Chicago Bears. He threw 3 interceptions in the second half. That was a game where I thought the Bengals could have beaten the Chicago Bears because Justin Fields, although I believe he deserves to be the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, he's still going through his growing pains. And I thought the Bengals had an opportunity to take advantage of the Chicago Bears because Justin Fields was going through his growing pains. Didn't happen. Joe Burrow threw 3 interceptions. I'm going to roll with the Bengals in an upset over the Steelers. I know Bengal fans are going to go crazy about this, and I'm picking the Bengals. I'm going to roll with the Bengals to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field. I got Bengals 27, Steelers 24. There you have it. That's my upset pick of the week. Bengals 27, Steelers 24. Yep, I got it. That's what I got. Listen, I haven't been very impressed with the Steelers so far this season. I haven't been. They're not running the football with Najee Harris, the running back they drafted out of Alabama. And in order for the Steelers to be successful, their formula to win games is to run the football with Najee Harris. Their formula can't be for Roethlisberger to drop back to pass 40 times a game. He's not at that point in his career anymore. If this was Roethlisberger 3-4 years ago, when they had Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, then maybe the Steelers can still win with Roethlisberger leading the charge. But that's not the case anymore. Ben Roethlisberger is past his prime. His best days are behind him. And in order for them to be contenders in the AFC, they have to run the football with Najee Harris and play great defense. Last week, Derek Carr, he shredded their defense. Now, they had some injuries on the defensive side of the ball. They had some key players that went out. TJ Watt left the game. Their nose tackle, Nahalu, I think that's his name. He left the game as well. So the Steelers, they had some key players defensively who left that game. I think Joe Hayden also left that game. So, Devin Bush, the linebacker, he left that game as well. So they had some key players who were out against Derek Carr. So that's also why Derek Carr performed the way that he did. But I got the Bengals in upset, 27-24. Colts and Titans. Colts are 0-2 in the season, Titans 1-1. This is a very important game for the Colts. They don't want to fall to 0-3. Their playoff hopes, will decrease early this season if they fall to 0-3. I got the Colts in an upset over the Titans. I got Colts. I'm going to say Colts 28, Titans 24. It's going to be close, but I'm rolling with the Colts. I think Carson Wentz will start at quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. So I got Carson Wentz 28, Ryan Tannehill 24. I still think the Titans are going to win the division, but I think given the circumstances and given how important this game is to the Colts and how they don't want to fall to 0-3 on the season, I think the Colts will show up and improve to 1-2 on the season. Colts 28, Titans 24. Washington football team at Bills. I think this game is going to be more competitive than most people think, but I'm going to roll with the Bills to beat the Washington football team. I got Bills 31, Washington 24. I think Josh Allen will be too much for the Washington football team's defense. When I came into the season, I talked about how the Washington football team, they had one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. But so far this season, I haven't been very impressed with the Washington football team. Their defense hasn't been very impressive. In week 2, Daniel Jones, he lit them up. In week 2. What did Daniel Jones have in week 2? He had, 249 passing yards. He only had 1 touchdown, but he looked very comfortable against the Washington football team's defense. Like Chase Young, I want to see you apply more pressure on opposing quarterbacks. that was one of the strengths of the Washington football team's, their team overall was their defense. That was one of the strengths. But it's been their offense that's been, impressive. In week 2 against the Giants, Heineke, he performed very well. I know he had a late interception in that game, but he overall, for the most part, he performed very well. That touchdown pass that he threw in the corner of the end zone was outstanding. So, Heineke has been, very impressive. I haven't been very impressed with the Washington football team's defense. That's why I think the Bills will prevail in this game. I got Bills 31, Washington 24, but I think it will be a competitive game. Cardinals at Jaguars. This is my lock of the weekend. Cardinals will dominate this game. I got Cardinals beating the Jaguars 35-20. I'm not even going to spend much time talking about that game. Bears at Browns. I think this game is going to be more competitive than people think. I'm going to roll with the Browns to win this game, though. I think they're going to be too much for Justin Fields. I got Browns 27, Bears 17. I think the Browns got a more complete team than the Bears. Odell Beckham is going to be returning back to the lineup. So expect to see him get in on the passing game and also, help Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns offense. We know the Cleveland Browns offensively, they're led by Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, that two-headed monster at the running back position. And for this team to be successful, they have to hand the football off to the two studs at running back. That's their formula to success. Handing the football off to the two studs at running back. I think they get the job done over the Bears. I think Justin Fields will struggle in this game, but he still deserves to be the starting quarterback for the Bears. I got Baker Mayfield 27, Justin Fields 17. Jets and Broncos, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Broncos have been very impressive so far this season. They're 2-0 in the season. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL. I'm going to roll with the Broncos to beat the Jets 28-14. We saw Zach Wilson struggle last week against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots defense. I think Zach Wilson threw 4 interceptions. I expect much of the same today against the Broncos, an elite defense in the NFL. So expect a few turnovers from Zach Wilson. I like Zach Wilson and his promise. I think he has a very, very promising career ahead of him. But I think in his rookie season, he's going to struggle. And we saw that in week 2 against the Patriots. I expect much of the same against the Broncos. Broncos 28, Jets 14. Dolphins at Raiders, no Tua in this game for the Dolphins. I'm rolling with the Raiders to win this game. Derek Carr, he's been very impressive so far this season. Last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, although they had some players out on the defensive side of the ball, Derek Carr, he hit 8 different receivers. 7 of those 8 receivers had 2 or more receptions. So he's distributing the football very effectively. He's not just throwing the ball to Darren Waller. He's getting others, involved in that offense. Henry Ruggs, I want to see him have another great game. Okay. Last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Henry Ruggs, 5 receptions, 113 receiving yards, 1 touchdown, had the big 61-yard touchdown catch from Derek Carr. Henry Ruggs is the speedster for this Las Vegas Raiders team. He's similar to Tyreek Hill and how he can take the top off of the defense with his speed. He's very impressive being able to get away from defenders and make plays in the open field. I want to see him be more consistent, as a pass catcher, without being down the field on deep, passes. I want to see him in the intermediate routes catch passes as well. Be more consistent at catching receptions for Derek Carr for the intermediate, more so even than the deep, routes that he runs as well. So I want to see that from Henry Ruggs. He was a first rounder out of Alabama. He played with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Judy's injured, right now. And so Henry Ruggs has an opportunity to prevail as being a key piece in this offense for Derek Carr and the Raiders offense. I got Raiders beating the Dolphins. I'm going to roll with the Raiders to win, let's say 28-20. I think the Dolphins will compete, but they will lose and fall to 1-2 on the season. Seahawks and Vikings. I'm rolling with Russell Wilson over Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. I got Seattle winning 31-20 over the Vikings. Eagles at Cowboys, the Monday night matchup. I think the Cowboys will beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I got the Cowboys winning. I'm going to say Cowboys 31, Eagles 27. It will be competitive. It will be competitive. Dak Prescott 31, Jalen Hurts 27. It will be a competitive game. We know every time the Eagles and the Cowboys face off against each other in the NFC East, it's always a battle. It's always a battle. Throughout the records, when these two teams play against each other, it will be a very competitive game. I expect that Monday night in Dallas. So I got Cowboys 31, Eagles 27. And I already said I got the Bucks beating the Rams 27-24. And then in the Sunday night matchup game, y'all know I'm not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers, even when all the odds are stacked against my Packers. I'm going to roll with the Packers to beat the 49ers. I'm going to say it's going to be 30-27. 30-27. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers will prevail over the 49ers in the Bay, 30-27. I'm excited about these matchups in the NFC. You can make a legitimate argument that these are the best four teams in the NFC. And the Bucks, Rams, Packers, Niners. Maybe you can throw in the Cardinals and the Seahawks because they both are elite teams in the NFC West. But outside of these four teams, in the Rams, Bucks, Packers, 49ers, there aren't really other many contenders in the NFC. Seattle, Arizona, Dallas, if they can get their defense together, that's about it. Vikings, they aren't contenders in the NFC. The Bears with Justin Fields, they aren't contenders in the NFC. In the NFC East, Giants, they're 0-2 on the season. They might get their first win today against the Atlanta Falcons, but they're 0-2 on the season. Eagles with Jalen Hurts, I don't think they're ready. They're not ready yet. They're not ready. And then Washington, maybe they could be a sleeper. Maybe Washington could be a sleeper. They can get their defense together. But I feel very, safe by saying either the Bucks, Rams, Packers, or 49ers will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year. That's what I'm saying. I'm going on record saying that. One of those four teams, these are the best four teams in the NFC. And we get a chance to see all four of them in action in two big-time matchups this afternoon. Bucks, Rams, 4:25 Eastern Time on Fox. Packers, 49ers on NBC, 8:25 Eastern Time. Can't wait for it. Everybody remember going to follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. Be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. I'm Trey Larkins on the Worldwide Sports Network signing off. I'll be back on this week recapping NFL Week 3 and also giving y'all my expectations for Week 4. Have a great NFL Sunday.